Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that strikes our fancy. I am Scott Barker, the editor of Compass, and Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all of those topics and more. And you can find us at CompassKnox.com, joined as almost always by Compass co-founder Jesse Mayshark. Jesse, welcome.
Thanks. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing okay, I guess. I will not steal Seth's thunder and talk about the gorgeous weather we have today, but this is Friday. We always tape on Fridays. Almost always.
Tell you, apart from the weather, which Seth has told me I'm not allowed to talk about because it's his thing.
I know. Yeah, he's
very possessive
about
Listen,
it.
I get recognized in public and thanked for my weather reports. I've got to hold on to this.
Well, I'll tell you what I am looking forward to this Sunday night. So this episode is going to come out Sunday morning. Is the Oscars, and I'm one of these people who actually likes the Oscars. I know a lot of people are super dismissive of them, and I understand that. Like, I agree that it's a mistake to take them too seriously. But I like movies. I like the pomp, the circumstance, and I'm working hard on my red carpet outfit. I don't know how yours is coming along, Scott.
Well, I don't have enough sequins.
Yeah, it's a problem this time of year.
Yeah, but anyway, well, I'm glad you're going to watch the Oscars. I probably won't.
I'll let you know what happens.
Wait, so are sequins imports being affected by tariffs or something? What's going on in the sequins department?
Yeah, there's a 50% tariff on imported sequins.
So now they cost like a half a cent instead of a quarter of a cent. Check.
Yeah. And Lord Seth Barber, our producer, engineer, all around tech guy. Seth, how are you doing today? And give us that 3-day-old.
It's beautiful.
Forecast.
It's a wonderful, beautiful Friday afternoon. The shorts are out and not feeling bad about wearing them, not getting chilly legs, and loving it. And since I'm the staff meteorologist here, I do feel inclined to say that it's spring forward this weekend.
Yeah.
So I always screw this up, so I'm not going to try. But yeah, the you're going to feel like it's a different time than when you normally.
You're going to be
this
sleepy.
episode.
You're going to be sleepy all week. I do think that one thing, and I don't know how this all gets lined up, and obviously different parts of the country have their spring breaks at different times. I think it works out very nicely for Knox County school students that this happens leading into spring break.
You mean parents of Knox County school students?
Yes, for all of us.
Don't have to fight their kids as hard.
Yeah, to have that week of making that adjustment before you have to go to school on the new time.
I do, but it is supposed to be rainy for the first. It's on and off rainy all week for spring break. So if you're in town, I don't know, find a couple of good indoor activities on your to-do list for spring break. But also get out if you can. So that's my.
All right, you get
parental advice as well.
Family advice as well. All right, you add that to your weather forecasting.
I know. I feel like I need to raise my rates on you guys.
That would be hard. Listen, this week we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that we covered from last week. One is there is a local Knoxville man was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor last week. We'll talk about Roddie Edmonds. We'll also look at the Knoxville Bar Association weighing in on judicial confirmations. They're not real happy about something that occurred recently. The Knoxville Police Department is back at full strength. After more than a decade of being woefully understaffed, the Mayor India Kincannon, named the Chilhowee Park Advisory Group. We'll talk about that real quickly. City Council passed a resolution calling for more funding for warming centers to serve the unhoused. But we're going to start by talking about the big news in the with Knox County schools, and that was the rezoning of the Powell Elementary School and surrounding zones. Rezoning of those schools for students. Powell has been overcrowded for a very long time. It's got a capacity of 600. It has close to 800 students going there. They have portable classrooms they've had for decades. The traffic is horrible around the school. All kinds of things. There's the feeder patterns into middle schools are kind of messed up a little bit. And the central office, the school administration, decided that to alleviate the overcrowding at Powell Elementary, they would rezone students, some to Carnes Elementary, others to Bricky McLeod Elementary, both of which are under capacity, have plenty of space for students. And so the administration actually brought a revised version to the school board last week. Monday's work session, they discussed it at length. They discussed it at length again on Thursday's voting meeting, and narrowly approved it. It was it was a very interesting vote. All of the board members talked about what a difficult decision it was and how they understood how disruptive that rezoning can be to families and students, and and they had heard that from the people in Powell. Powell residents, especially parents, contacted school board members over the past month, flooding their inboxes with emails, calling them, talking to them, trying to convince them to not do rezoning. They would prefer a new school, or at least an addition to the existing school. We'll talk about why the school system didn't do that in a minute. But the vote was very interesting because you had, this is Steve Triplett's district. He has been talking with the administration, and he's running for re-election this year too. And yes, that's going to be very important. He's running for re-election. He has been, but he had been working, talking with and working with the administration over the last 2 years on these discussions. But when it came time to vote, he sided with his constituents, the people who will be voting on his reelection, and voted against the proposal. Betsy Henderson, who is running for Knox County mayor and will be is courting votes, Powell, also voted against it. But even the ones who voted for it, talked about what a difficult decision it was. And the first, when they initially voted, you had Patricia Fontenot Ridley, Travis Wright, Lori Morgan, and Christy Christie, who all voted for it. But that's only 4. You got to have 5. And the other 3 members all passed. That was John Butler and Ann Templeton and Catherine Bike. They all passed the first round. And the way the school board does it, you go through and you vote, and anyone who passed gets the opportunity to change their votes back. So they asked Butler, do you want to change your vote? Or do you want to change your vote from pass to something else? He said no. They asked Templeton. She also said no. So then it came on Bike. And this is the vote that would either push this forward or stop it in its tracks. And it was really interesting watching her grapple with this, because she was very obviously anguished about it. She brought her hands together, kind of steepled her hands as though she was in prayer, and she then at one point she put her chin on her fist, just, and her eyes were closed. She was obviously anguished about it. And this went on for about 30 seconds. It seemed longer. It was, and it was very, very quiet. And then she didn't speak into the microphone. Very soft voice. She said yes, that she would support it. And so the rezoning will go into effect. It's not going to go into effect until the 27-28 school year. So they've got a year to prepare. That couple of the things that the school system did to make it more palatable they hoped to Powell residents was you can do early exit if you want to go ahead and get a head start and go to send your kids to Powell or to Carnes or Bricky McLeod, depending on where you're living. You can go ahead and do that next school year. And then they also did a grandfather clause in there. So if you're currently a student at Powell Elementary, you can stay at Powell Elementary until you get through the 5th grade, which is the highest grade there. And before you move on to middle school, you can stay. Now, if these families that might have someone, they might have a child who's 3 years old now, and they've got an older sibling in Powell Elementary. The older sibling can stay, but when the younger sibling gets to kindergarten age, that child apparently would have to go to the school they were zoned for. Although transfers, things like that, there's still ways that you can try to get to the other school, but they're doing that to try to make it as a little less disruptive for those who are adamant about keeping their kids at Powell. But that passed. Whenever you do rezonings like that, it's very contentious. Families don't like it. They tend to like the schools where they're sending their children, and but the school system went ahead, or the school board went ahead and approved it, and really there wasn't much of a choice.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say is that, and that's where I think the politics of this become interesting, because they don't really have a choice. The school's overcrowded. They need to do something there. There is no other, and we can talk in a minute about why there's not another option on the table, but there isn't another option on the table. So it was kind of like, do this or continue to live with a school that everybody knows is overcrowded. Mm-hmm. I think that so if you look at who passed initially in that vote, you said Butler, Templeton, and Cat Bike, all Democrats. Not that this is particularly a partisan issue, but I hesitate to read people's minds. But when you come to a difficult vote like this that really specifically affects a particular district, or in this case, 2 districts, because Carnes Elementary is in District 6, which is Henderson's district. So this really only affects people who live in Triplett and Henderson's districts. You talked about the electoral pressures that Triplett and Henderson are facing. They both took... Now this is a hard vote if you're the person who represents that district, but also it's kind of your problem to solve. It doesn't really affect anybody in any other district. They took the politically expedient route of opposing this, even though presumably they both knew that something needed to change as well. Mm-hmm. But they went ahead and voted against it basically leaving the rest of their school board colleagues on the hook to pass something in their districts that everybody knows needs to happen. But they kind of shoved that hard work off on the rest of the board. And you can sort of understand why some board members might be resistant to kind of, doing cleanup work, voting for something unpopular when the people whose district it actually affects are not willing to step up and do it. And I can only imagine that that's part of what motivated some of those passes. Now, Bike herself is running for re-election, as is Butler, as is Christie. Politically, it probably doesn't have a ton of impact on them because I don't think people in Bike's district or Christie's or Butler's are going to vote for or against them because of their vote on something that happened in Powell. Most people in their districts aren't even going to be aware of it unless they follow Compass.
Or it's a campaign tool from their opponent to be like, you vote for this person, they're going to mess with your kids in school next year.
I mean, but it's still kind of, it's probably not too much of a political hit for them. But I can see it feeling a little bit like, okay, you want me to do this thing that all these people are yelling at us, saying not to do. Interesting politics.
And there's also the general deference to the person that represents that district.
True.
If I like you, I don't want to try to read someone's mind, but that could have played a role. If they thought, okay, this is the right thing to do is pass it, but Triplett's against it, and it's his district. So I'll just pass.
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. But
that may have played a role.
And it's not again, you can sort of think that Triplett was thinking, well, I'm going to vote against this, but I hope it still passes because we actually do need to solve this problem. But he couldn't come out and say that, right? Triplett couldn't say, well, I'm going to vote no, but I really encourage the rest of my colleagues to vote yes.
When they brought this up the first time publicly in, not was really the first time, but the first time they had a plan in February, the Triplett did not give any indication that he was against it.
All right, so let me interrupt with a process question here. So we go through the round and we get these 3 passes, and then it comes back around and the first 2 pass again. If Kat had decided, for whatever reason, to continue the pass, and so we have a 4-2-3 vote, do they continue to go back around, or is this just a dead topic?
It would fail,
and it fails from there.
Yeah.
Okay, because you have to have 5 votes to pass, and it would have only had 4 votes. It would have failed. That was part of the reason that Bach was so anguished. Don't know what she would have done. She'd been the first one that they
right.
That they
That's part of what the curiosity is.
Well, they go by district,
right? Right, so had
Butler's
the last person to pass been somebody else, it could have been
they asked
somebody
Butler
else.
first because he's the first district,
right?
And Templeton's in the second district, and so they asked her second. And Bach represents the 4th district, so she was the next in line of the passes. So she was the last one of the passes to be asked. And
got it.
And you talk about somebody who I think, and she left the meeting pretty quickly when it ended too. I didn't get a chance to talk with her. You have to wonder how angry she might have been to be put in that situation.
Right. That's a hard vote. And, I think that it shows again, just how local government is hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because there are times when you have to make changes to things that people don't want you to make changes to. And those votes are, we've both watched so many city council members, county commissioners, state legislators, school board members, go through these votes that they know, I'm going to have to make a decision here that's going to make a lot of people mad. That's never easy to do. So I think probably weighing against that, I'm sure, for Bike, and I'm sure many other people on the board were hoping that it would pass, because if it didn't, they'd still be dealing with it, and it's still going to come back to some vote that's going to make people mad. Like had they just voted against it, they were still going to be basically stuck in the same situation.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier they didn't have a choice. I mean, and the administrators tried to explain this and did explain it multiple times. When they're faced with an overcrowded school, there's basically three things they can do. They can rezone, which they did. You can build an addition onto the existing building, or you can build a new school. Now, two of those three are very, very expensive. It's upwards of $60 million to build a new school. And the school system basically looks first at rezoning. Can we rezone? And if they do that, because it's the most cost effective, it really doesn't cost them a whole lot to rezone. And there are criteria they look at. I mean, they didn't just arbitrarily do this. And if they can rezone, and part of that is the other schools had plenty of open desks, open spaces in their schools. So they could go ahead and there weren't going to be any big transportation issues, and all that. So they went ahead and did it. They didn't even consider a building an addition or a new school. It's probably good that they didn't, because the county can't afford it.
Right. I mean, they're pretty tapped out. The school system has built several new schools in the last decade or so. I believe. Yeah, to resolve various issues in other parts of the county. And, if that area of North Knox County keeps growing the way it has been, even this fix is only going to be a temporary one, because this gives them there's some capacity in both of those schools, but they could fill those, and so it's entirely possible that there will still eventually need to be a new school somewhere in North Knox County. But right now, they still have that new school in Farragut and the new one up above Western Heights, which aren't even open yet. Like they're still working on those, and then those have to be paid off. And as we've talked about many times, Knox County has a sizable debt burden that is going to get worse in the near future. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's probably not a lot of appetite anywhere in county government to go and undertake a new school right now. Yeah,
I mean, as it stands now, we just got a couple of years before the county's fund that they use to pay debt, the debt service fund, is going to run completely out of its reserves. They're already, the debt service payments already outstrip the revenue that goes into that fund. So they're eating into the reserves every year. The reserves are going to run out. This is something that the county commission is going to have to grapple with. But there is no real way to build a new school. And I mean, John Roswick, the superintendent, said, everybody wants a new school. And he said, you kind of wish you could build a new school for everybody, but you can't. And, and part of the thing that Triplett, one of the reasons he was opposed to this is he wanted to take more time to explore options. Well, there are no options to explore, really.
Maybe he wanted a study that wouldn't be done until after the election.
Maybe. I don't know. But it was, they really didn't have much of a choice there as far as what they were going to be doing. Now,
yeah, it was one just of the kind things, of like who was going to fall on the sword of actually voting for it.
Yeah, and and also it was like which areas were going to be rezoned. And one of the things they did try to do is they tried to rezone areas where either they had new developments or would have new developments in the future. And that's the very eastern edge of that district, which goes to Bricky, and then on the other side, on the western side, the kids that are going to be zoned for Carnes, north of Beaver Creek and west of Clinton Highway, and right in the middle of that happens to be where the big Belltown development is going in, and so there's going to be a big influx of students there. And yeah, I mean, if that's going to be down the road, it's not going to really be open for a while, for a couple of years. But and one of the things that the Knox County Schools said was that not only is Powell Elementary at 200 students above capacity, in just next couple of years, that number will grow to 300 if they didn't do anything. Now, 300 above capacity, I mean, that's half again.
Right, it's like 50% over
50% over capacity. So, but anyway, that's the solution that they've come up with. It has been approved, and students and families in Powell have a year to adjust, make plans, and actually they don't have a year. They've got to do this by November, as far as if they want to be grandfathered in for the next school year, because the school system has to make plans about teachers and where they go and those kinds of things. Anyway, so they'll have most of this year to decide what they're going to do in the short term, in the long term. Powell theoretically will be at under capacity for a short amount of time.
A little bit of breathing room. Well, it's just interesting because it's obviously, like, in the grand scheme, it's a relatively small thing, rezoning a couple hundred kids in one part of the county. But as we've been talking about, it's just a microcosm of, like, it brings all of these different factors to bear. It brings election year politics in. It brings the county's big picture financial situation. Like, all of those things have to be accounted for.
And the growth. Especially on that end of town. One of my places is up there, and it gets... we're going through that new interchange up there on 75 at Emory, which has been interesting. 75 was closed for like an hour yesterday for them to do something, and that's just where we're at.
Man, I try to stay off of 75 up there. It's a zoo.
It is, and I got to go there after this, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, we'll shift now to some city issues. We had city council on Tuesday voted to pass a resolution about the warming centers that are open for people who are unhoused in the coldest nights of the year. They actually are asking the administration and the county and the joint city-county Office of Housing Stability to look at expanding the number of days that they be open. Currently, they open when the forecast is or temperatures of 25 or below. They want to make that threshold 32 wind chill factor, which is, on really windy nights that could be 40 degrees.
Sure.
But they wanted to explore what it would take to do that, look at funding, various options there, and also to open them in the summer when it's hotter than 90 degrees. So as cooling centers, not warming centers. But this was a proposal put forward by Councilwoman Amelia Parker and new council member Matthew DeBartoleben. The council passed it unanimously. The mayor was on board with it. Of course, looking at it, of course, we don't know what that would entail. One of the tricky things about doing that, of course, is these warming centers are run by essentially the ones that we have now are almost all run by churches, and
right,
so
and they're volunteers.
They're volunteers. A lot of the food is donated. that kind of thing. So, you know,
that was one thing I was wondering, was when they talk about providing funding to expand those services, what would that funding pay for? Since right now the people who do it are not paid to do it.
Right. Well, there's, you know, discussion about, you know, having somebody paid who goes to, who is at one person at each place to coordinate everything. There's talk about using other locations where they might have to pay rent or use city facilities. They want to just take a look at how that would work, and of course, this resolution was non-binding. Doesn't change anything at this point. There's no, you know, the temperatures remain the same. If you know, if nothing happens between now and next winter, you know, when it gets, you know, they're not going to open until they get to 25 degrees. So, but they are going to theoretically going to take a look at it. One interesting thing is that City Council is actually having a workshop next week where they're going to talk about homelessness and housing issues. I'm sure this will come up there too.
Especially with all those new council members on board now, like that'll be their first opportunity to have a real in-depth public discussion of those issues.
Oh yeah, and
which all of them discussed in their campaigns.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're you know, it's one of those things where it's easy to talk about when you're campaigning for office, but when you're actually in office, you look at you've got all these various things going on in addition to this particular issue. So, you know, homelessness is a notoriously difficult issue to tackle. I mean, you know, cities, counties, states, the federal government has, you know, every year they put resources toward trying to alleviate you know, the suffering of people who are homeless and try to get them housed one way or another, treatment programs, housing, you know, billions of dollars spent there, and it's not solved. So it is a vexing problem.
Yeah, when I worked for the city, and it was a huge problem then too, and one that we heard about all the time from people across the spectrum, from people who want more services and more options provided, and also from people who think the government spends too much money on all these homeless people and they just need to, you know, get their act together and get a job or whatever. And what I would always say to people, and I meant this very sincerely, was, you know, like, there are a lot of efforts, but if you have ideas, like, show me the models, because every place in the country is struggling with this. Show me the places that you think are doing it well. And occasionally somebody would actually say, oh, you should look at this city or that city. And I would go and look at those places. And what I would always find is, oh, they're dealing with the same problems. Like, yeah, as you say, nobody has quote unquote solved it, because the reality is, like, homelessness isn't just one thing. Like, we talk about it as if it's only an issue of people needing housing, but often what you're dealing with is people who have sort of fallen through every single available safety net, public, private, and otherwise, and they are often dealing with a whole matrix of issues that are simply not easy to solve. And if they are solvable, it's on a case-by-case, individual-by-individual basis. It's a hard one.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know, they considered another resolution that put forward by Parker and DeBartoleben that would ask the Knox County Planning Commission to look at how to kind of regulate or decide what is a warming center and where can they go, because that's not spelled out in the zoning code. And, you know, of course, the idea would be that it would be a temporary use because they are only used, you know, on these certain nights of the year. And there are several things that are allowed on a temporary basis. So that's not unusual. But one of the things that majority of the council members looked at was that really they need to wait until the results of the discussions stemming from the first resolution, the one that passed, let those play out, and then see if you need to do the rezoning. And another issue that was coming up is the Planning Commission has just started working on the revision to the city's comprehensive plan, which takes up a lot of staff time and resources, and they said it could end up being addressed somewhat through the comprehensive plan, but there was just no real urgency to pushing that resolution forward, so it failed. But again, they're going to be supposedly again, it's a non-binding resolution, but looking at they are going to be looking at basically expanding the services of the warming centers. And another wild card in that, and not discussed at the meeting, was the county funds half of the Office of Housing Stability, and as we just mentioned, the county's kind of hurting for money. So we don't, they weren't part of this discussion. It's, like I said, it's a non-binding resolution asking the county to participate with the office and the city in doing this.
I think one other thing that's just worth mentioning there that I think is interesting is that this came from Parker and DeBartoleben. And, we've talked before that Parker, over her years on council, has often pushed for various kinds of resolutions or ordinances, often aimed at disadvantaged parts of the community. And she has often struggled to get traction for them. And it's just interesting that, with a shift in some council members, like obviously she and DeBartoleben have connected here on this particular issue, and worked it through the process and got a unanimous vote, which, is not something that we have always seen her able to do on issues that she's pushing for.
Oh, that's true. And now one thing about this is housing is really in DeBartoleben's wheelhouse. He's was a board member of Yes Knoxville, which advocates for more housing options and transportation options and things like that. So that's he was kind of a natural ally on these particular measures. Another issue that has come up in recent months is Chilhowee Park. We've talked many times about the Mayor Kincannon's failed proposal to sell a portion of Chilhowee Park to Emerald Youth Foundation for a sports and activities complex in East Knoxville. Well, one of the things that came out of that is Kincannon said, "Well, I'll form an advisory group to plan stuff moving forward." Well, 4 months after her council nixed her plan for Chilhowee Park, she has named members of that board. They're going to advise the city on long-term changes that could be made to Chilhowee Park. Now, the city did that a few years ago. There is a Chilhowee Park plan in place, but this advisory board is made up mostly of East Knoxville residents. There's Cynthia Finch from the Burlington Business Association. She was a pro Emerald voice, but there are others as well. Clarence Vaughn is on there. He's a board member of the Tennessee Valley Fair. You've got a couple of Austin East alumni who are on there. Brian Brooks, who's a graphic designer and the member of the East Knoxville Business and Professional Association. Got a representative of the school, somebody from the schools. Allison Comer, who's the CEO of Muse Knoxville. There's 17 people that they've asked to be on this board, and there really isn't. They didn't have to go to city council or anything. They could just name them, and they modeled this a little bit on the Citizens Advisory Board that helped put together the South Waterfront Downriver plan, which council did approve last Tuesday. That's the area down Scottish Pike where the southern end of the pedestrian bridge is supposed to go, and so but they came up with a workable plan. A lot of area residents there. That's the same idea here. One of the things that is that Kincannon also had promised, and she said it's going to be in her budget, is $10 million for Chilhowee Park improvements. So this group will have some money to play with, I guess.
They can make some proposals that might actually happen.
Yeah, and it's going to be $2 million a year is the plan. Of course, she's only going to be in office a couple more years, but the intent is there. So don't know when they're going to be. They're going to be meeting, I believe, this week. First meeting. So we'll see how that group, what kind of start that they get, and might get an idea of some of the things that they'll want to talk about. And other city issues, Knoxville Police Department had a graduation from its class, its training academy class last week, and with that graduation, the KPD has more than 400 officers. Their authorized strength is 416, and more than 400 officers for the first time since 2015. And that's one of the things that has been vexing mayors and police chiefs for years. I just couldn't recruit enough people.
And not just here, all across the country. It's been a challenge.
But one of the Chief Paul Noel has done a couple of things. And the big thing was done by City Council and Mayor Kincannon, and that was the property tax increase from a few years ago, which they used to increase the pay for police officers and others, and all city employees. Almost all city employees got a bump on that, and the police especially. The starting pay now is about $58,000 for an officer once they get through the academy and are actually certified.
A lot more than the starting pay for school teachers.
Yep, and so that is, and they also put a lot of resources into recruiting. They did more targeted recruiting. They went about it in a more professional way. They got software. They got things that they use to help track people they're contacts with and things like that. It's just the emphasis apparently has paid off. Now they won't stay at full strength forever. They have tons of officers who could retire tomorrow. So they're going to need to keep their efforts going. But it is notable that that KPD is finally back to full strength. So, one issue that I guess is kind of law enforcement related, legally related anyway. The Knoxville Bar Association weighed in on what they thought or they think is kind of a meddling by the legislature on judicial appointments or confirmations. And Jesse, this is something that you covered. What's their beef with the legislature?
Yeah, so the Knoxville Bar Association put out a statement this week basically decrying partisan political interference in the judicial confirmation process, and they said that this had cost the state a highly qualified candidate to be a judge. They didn't name that highly qualified candidate, but they also didn't need to, because certainly everybody in the legal profession, definitely in the local legal profession, knew who they were referring to. It's a local attorney named Rachel Park Hunt. She is a Knoxville lawyer with Arnett, Baker, Draper, and Haygood. I think I'm saying those names in the right order. Major local firm. She's a graduate of the University of Tennessee College of Law. She is apparently very well regarded by her colleagues and peers here because, among other things, she is currently the president of the Board of Governors of the Knoxville Bar Association, the board that kind of manages that association. And she is apparently well regarded by Governor Bill Lee, who nominated her for a vacant appeals court seat a couple of months ago. And the state legislature does have the legal authority. This actually, I don't know if anybody even remembers this or remembers voting for it, but Tennessee voters passed an amendment to the state Constitution back in 2014, I think it was, that, among other things, gave the legislature more power over judicial appointments. And so all of these nominations from the governor now have to come to the legislature and win legislative approval. And in the weeks following her nomination, apparently some number of Republicans in Nashville started to circulate stories that Hurt was not a reliable Republican. And really what this came down to, apparently, and this is from reporting by the Tennessee Journal, was that she, in 2016, donated $400 to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. And then in 2018, she put up a Facebook post. I don't even think it was her post. I think it was a comment on somebody else's post. There was a lawyer in 2018, Jamie Ballinger, who ran as a Democrat against State Senator Richard Briggs, challenged him for his state Senate seat. And so Ballinger had put up something on Facebook about her campaign, and Hurt just commented something like, "I wish I could vote for you." You know, she didn't live in her district, but apparently, she's friends, colleagues. "Wish I could vote for you." That was it. By all other measures, she's apparently a Republican. But that was enough in the current climate for a couple of state senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee to let it be known that they were not happy with this nomination. And so as a consequence, last month in February, Hurt withdrew her nomination voluntarily rather than force, the governor to have to maybe go through having his own nominee rejected. She didn't probably want to put herself through that either. But so the net result of this was she does not, in fact, get to be an appeals court judge. And so the Knoxville Bar Association, kind of showing that they have her back, put out a statement saying that this was, a miscarriage of justice, and that it had cost the state a clearly qualified and somebody who would have been, they said, a very good judge. And then beyond that, the Bar Association pointed out that this is probably illegal. I mean, it's hard to, like, it didn't actually come to a vote. So you can't say they actually did anything because all this discussion happened behind the scenes. But, while it is true that we amended the Constitution to allow legislative confirmation of judicial appointments, the Bar Association, they're lawyers. They can read the Constitution. They know what's in there. They pointed out that the Constitution also says, and has said for a very long time, that there can be no religious or political test for a state appointment. This is obviously a political test. That's all it is. It is nothing but a political test. It's clearly an ideological litmus test being imposed by a couple of legislators. And so, the Bar Association, they're not threatening legal action over it or anything like that. But they were pushing back. And also, I think, trying to raise the alarm, not just about this one candidate, this one Knoxville lawyer who's not going to get to be a judge, but basically saying, this is not how we're supposed to pick judges. And if this is how this is going to be done in the future, it is a violation of the state constitution, that just because the legislature does have confirmation power does not mean that they're free to ignore the other parts of the Constitution and start imposing all sorts of their own, wish lists of things they want to see or not see in these nominees. So, it was interesting, but it certainly speaks to the ongoing hyperpolarization and partisanship that we're seeing across our political system, and certainly seen in the supermajority state legislature.
All kinds of interesting things going on in Nashville this session. So, one final thing from this past week or last week was the late Roddie Edmonds, who was a soldier in World War II and Korea, but was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military medal, for his actions that saving Jewish American soldiers in prisoners of war in World War II. He was a master sergeant from Knoxville. He was a master sergeant, was captured in the Battle of the Bulge. So these are the waning days of World War II. And he was in a prison camp. He was the ranking enlisted man in this, which basically means he was, in charge of the prisoners. Because there were no officers in this particular camp. So he was the ranking officer, and the Germans, the German officer approached him and wanted him to identify and bring out all of the Jewish American soldiers who were POWs. And there were about 200 of them in this particular camp. And he refused. And the German officers insisted. And then he said, we're all Jews. We're every one of us. And was frustrated that they had him at gunpoint. He could easily have just killed him right there, but didn't.
Well, that's kind of what he was saying, was if you want to kill them, you're going to have to kill all of us.
And finally the Germans relented, and his actions were credited with saving 200 lives or so. Interesting thing about that is he never told anybody. He didn't tell his family, didn't talk about it after the war. Of course, he served in Korea as well, but he never talked about it. He died in 1985, and his son was looking at his diaries that he found, and there was an account of it the diaries, he decided to try to find some of these soldiers, and he did. Some of the soldiers that he saved, and he was contacted. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Yad Vashem, which is the institution in Israel that's the official Holocaust Memorial Institution, and they decided that he was deserving of the name Righteous Among Nations, which they give to non-Jews who saved Jews during the Holocaust. He's the only American soldier so honored. And then just this last week, President Trump had a ceremony at the White House where he awarded 3 medals of honor, one to Roddie Edmonds, and his son was there to receive the much deserved and long delayed Medal of Honor, which is, as I said, it's the highest award that you can get in the military. Many people realize that Alvin York from Jamestown is probably the most famous Medal of Honor winner I shouldn't say winner, recipient in Tennessee, and as I said, it's just that story has always resonated with me.
Yeah,
and
it's a very, very powerful story.
It is, and well deserved. That is everything we're going to talk about that happened last week. Lots more happened. We reported it. It was in either on our website or in our newsletter. And if you subscribe, you go to CompassKnox.com and do that, and you'll be able to read it firsthand before we gab about it on Compass Points. Now, moving ahead to this week, it's going to be kind of slow on the civic business front because it's spring break. Nobody in government does anything on spring break.
Spring break!
Yeah, Seth, are you going anywhere for spring break?
No, we got construction to do. So
okay,
and we might day trip. We were talking about maybe going up to like Kate's Cove trip or something like that, but nothing super exciting in the travel front for us.
Well, of course,
recuperating from the time change is probably the majority of our agenda.
Really, now one exception to that is going to be Thursday at 6 p.m. in the main assembly room of the City County building. City Council will hold that aforementioned workshop on housing and homelessness, where they will they don't have the I don't know what the agenda is going to be, but they will be talking about various initiatives. The city spends about $6 million a year on homelessness, and then $8 million a year on housing, affordable housing. So they're going to talk about all those things on Thursday evening. And other than that, it's going to be pretty slow week as far as formal business. News will always happen.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a fair amount of stuff happening in the legislature next week, so we'll probably have some things to talk about there. Absolutely,
and if there's nothing else that you want to bring up, Jesse or Seth, we'll let you talk again.
No, the weather's going to be a mixed bag next week, so be ready.
Okay, all right. Well, that's everything we've got.
I got to go get my Oscar outfit together.
There you go. I'll be the paparazzi. I'll be anyway. That's it for Compass Points this week. I want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his impeccable work, and Will Wright, who provides the music for us, and we will be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.